Governments are no longer denying it. The military are no longer denying it. And even mainstream media no longer denies it. They're here and have been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969. And now we're sharing the truth with you. Welcome to MUFON's What's Up with hosts Katie Grabowski, Christopher DiPerno, and Katie Cook, exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday night, and you're listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity, and curiosity starts with MUFON. Oh, look at my hair's all sticking up there. I better fix that. Brought to you by KGRADB.com. Please go to their website and subscribe for awesome content. As always, we're brought to you by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. Always asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? I'm your host, Katie Grabowski, the Colorado State Director. And I always like to feature somebody for the 2022 Denver MUFON International Symposium. And this week, I'm featuring Michael Schratt. He will be presenting Dark Files, a pictorial history of lost, forgotten, and obscure UFO encounters. And I just got to hang out with Michael Schratt in Las Vegas this weekend. There we are on Fremont Street. It had a great time, but I was sitting next to him in the front row during this broadcast, and he comes in with a binder. I'm not kidding you, it was this thick, filled with his drawings. Amanda, I think I added a picture there of him. The artwork that he does on these obscure cases that he'll be sharing in Denver he brings all these cases just to life. And I'm a very visual person, and it's just amazing the work that he has done. So I'm so super excited he's going to be out there in Denver. I hope you all can join us to hang out. We have an amazing guest for you tonight. We have Earl Gray Anderson. Earl is a lot of fun, and this is going to be a really fun show. I'd like to first introduce my co-host, Katie Cook. Katie, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm excited to be here as I am every week. And I'm so glad you had fun in Vegas. I'm jealous that I couldn't go. That looked like a really good time.
Oh my gosh, I just flew back today and I'm losing my voice. And I didn't even sing or scream or do anything. I don't know what's going on, but it's fine. It's Vegas. It was a blast, and I was happy to be a part of all that.
Look, I've actually got my Las Vegas cup that I use every week. I got that at the Las Vegas. I don't know if you can even see it.
Oh, that's Vegas. Cool.
Yeah, but I got that in the airport years ago.
Oh, nice. Love it. I love it. Well, let's bring on the fun Chris DiPerno, State Director of New York and ERT. Welcome, Chris, and Jenna and Jerry.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Hey, listen what I got, Katie. I got my Montreal cup. Of course, it's Labatt's blue. So I'll be sharing that during the show today. I'm going to need it after this show. Let me tell you. And stuff. Yeah, the world's coming to an end. I'm just interested.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Hey, listen, it all can be solved with alcohol. So we can go.
I thought Jerry went to rehab, right? He's not on the sauce anymore.
No. As a matter of fact, I know you're going to mention something about toilet paper. So when you get to that, Jerry's very proud. Matter of fact, you can see what he's holding in his hands. He's been practicing just for you. Of course, now the toilet is plugged. So we're waiting for the plumber to come to fix it.
That'll be an interesting conversation. How did you plug your toilet up? Well, my alien uses too much toilet paper.
Hey, let me tell you something. These guys eat like a horse, and they eat the horse. So,
ew.
Well, what do you want from me? I'm not the one that's eating a cow's ass and stuff like that. He is.
We could have kids listening.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. A cow's poop shoot.
I'm not sure that's any better
for the mutilation.
Well, okay, I'll bring it down.
Keeping it classy right up front.
Right. They are doing the mutilations. Oh, my goodness. So, Katie, what do you have to kick us off today?
Well, our theme of the week, I'm sure our guest has seen this one before. And Katie, you actually found this for us. It's such a cute one. Let's see if we can get that up there. It's so good. Okay. So for anyone just listening, it looks like it's Jean-Luc Picard. And he's got this giant cup of tea, kind of like KDE, like you always have. But he says, computer, I said, Earl Gray. And basically in his teacup, it's just a gray alien.
How appropriate for today.
Yeah. And speaking of giant aliens, okay, our pop of the week. I've shown you this one before. This is the really large green alien head with the little metallic eyes. I love this one so much. It's vanilla flavored and it's got that edible metallic chocolate in the eyes. So cute. And you can order these, as always, at paranormalpops.com. And yeah, so I found this next items for Jerry. You know, we know he's had issues using the toilet paper. I thought maybe he could use a little extra clean now and then. So I found alien bath bombs. Let's show these. Okay, these cute little ones here. These are sold on Etsy by Man on the Moon Mystics. I thought that was really cute. This next one, I'm not sure I want him in my bath. I think he's a little, he's kind of scary looking. But for those that like the more intense looking aliens, again, sold on Etsy by Arish Handmade. And then finally, you know, little baby alien. I thought maybe this is how, you know, Jenna and Jerry get their own little baby, is to have the bath bomb with the little baby comes out. Surprise, you have a baby. These are also sold on Etsy, sold by Tick Fizz.
I think we better, before we start doing that, we better talk about the birds and the bees with them. Or maybe the Draconians and the Syrians or something.
Yeah. I'd like you to record that conversation.
I don't know if ETs are traditional that way. I'm not sure.
Maybe
I think that's a big question mark.
They should probably get married first, though, right?
Right.
I would think so, but they're still in the dating stage. Okay. So, we'll get from there.
Okay. Well, Chris, what's going on in the news this week?
Well, let me tell you something. Before we start with the news, I took myself out. What's the new generation? What are they called? The Generation X, Z, Y, M, X, right. Z, what?
I can never get that right. Yeah. Millennials is like the last one, right? What are we on now?
Let's say Generation Z.
Okay.
All right. So I went to talk to Generation Z and asked them, I says, what do you think about UFOs and aliens coming here to Earth? And I was able to get a response from the new generation. This is what I got.
Okay.
Well, the sound didn't work. So,
is that your granddaughter making little?
That's my granddaughter. Yeah, I asked her about aliens, and she went. So, okay, well, let's say I'm 1 for 0 right now.
Well, maybe the aliens didn't like her response, so they muted her.
I must be. I guess that's the first time that's ever happened to me. All right, let's get to the news. Amanda, enough of this stuff around. Let's get to the news. First story. Wait a minute.
Oh, this is going to be a doozy, I can tell.
Well, we're all going to die. A 4 billion-year-old comet, 80 miles wide, is headed toward Earth. That's why I took up drinking. An ancient comet, believed to be over 4 billion years old, is headed towards the Earth. The massive comet is at least 80 miles across, making it twice the width of Rhode Island. It's currently speeding towards the Earth at 22,000 miles per hour. This ancient comet is the largest ever discovered. The comet in question is hurtling inward from the edge of our solar system. The ancient comet is expected to pass that close to the Earth sometime in 2031. That means we have a number of years before we even need to be concerned about ourselves with this ancient celestial object. I'm worried about it now. That's why I'm drinking. Still, it's always interesting to see when comets and asteroids are headed in our direction. David Jewett, a professor of planetary science and astronomy at UCLA, says that this object, like this and other comets, were evicted from a solar system ages ago. Jewett says the comets then took up residence in the Oort cloud, I don't know this, which is a massive gathering of far-flung comets that encircle our solar system. Other comets, like this ancient comet, then orbited the solar system billions of miles into deep space, on top of making its way towards Earth. There's something else that makes this comet so intriguing. For one, astronomers say this comet has the largest nucleus of any comet we've seen thus far. They determined the size of this nucleus to be as large as 85 miles across. Folks, I don't know anything about comets, but I will tell you that's a big comet. So I can tell you we're in trouble. Comet C 2014 UN 271, why can't they just call it Harry, was first discovered by Pedro Bertinelli and Gary Bernstein. The astronomers first, can you imagine having that Bertinelli comet? The Bertinelli comet out there. Sounds like something out of an Italian restaurant. The astronomers first observed this in 2010. At the time, the comet was 3 billion miles from the sun. Now, it is less than 2 billion miles from the sun. Jewett says that it will continue its current loop until it eventually returns to the Oort cloud in a few million years. They estimate that the comet is roughly 500 trillion tons. That's a big comet. That's 100,000 times greater than the mass of a typical comet found closer to the sun. So, are we going to end up like mashed potatoes getting smashed by a 500 trillion ton rock? Amanda, let's roll that video.
Comets can be big, but oftentimes their tails, which are clouds of ice turning to gas, called a coma, can obfuscate the comet itself. But now, Science Alert reports, a new study using the Hubble Space Telescope has been able to separate Comet C/2014 UN 271's coma from its nucleus. And it turns out it's an absolute whopper of a cosmic body. C/2014 UN 271, also known as the Bernardinelli-Bernstein comet, hails from the Oort cloud, or a cloud of icy objects believed to be at the very edge of our solar system. Bernardinelli-Bernstein has been drawn to the solar system's center, aka the sun, for the last million years, meaning its 3 million year orbit is slowly getting closer, and in doing so, we can get a closer look at it. And while astronomers and physicists knew it was big, they had no idea it was going to turn out this massive. Bernardinelli-Bernstein is an insane 85 miles wide. That's more than 50 times larger than the average comet whirling around the solar system. But don't worry about it getting too close to Earth, as it's still about 1 billion miles from the sun.
Well, there you go. So, Cookie, what do you think? Are we ready to go to a bar and start drinking, or what?
Any excuse. No. Yeah, this is the stuff of nightmares. I mean, it's still 1 billion miles from the sun, but that doesn't sound far enough away from me. This makes me think of, remember the Planet X theory, that there was this planet that had a 3,000 year orbit, that only come around every 3,000 years. I think Sitchin used to talk a lot about that. I still wonder,
wasn't that Nibiru?
Yeah. I still wonder if that could be a thing. I mean, I feel like we would know that by now, but maybe they're just not telling us. But yeah, I know it's really far away, but for something to be that huge, I mean, I don't think we can just blast that out of the sky. That's huge.
No, 500 trillion tons. No, this is just a tad little big. I don't know. I think if it hits us, we all better be sitting out on the front lawn drinking bourbon. Anyways, what do you think, Katie?
Reminds me of Deep Impact. I'm going to get my shovel, my bulldozer, and start building an underground bunker. I don't know if that would help. I don't know. But,
yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know. Probably not, huh? I don't know.
Right.
Ant people survived underground.
Yeah.
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
Underground? Where are you going to go underground? It's 500 trillion tons. How are you going to dig all the way to China and keep going? 500 trillion tons.
You got to try.
You're going to make a small hole?
You got to try.
I'm with you. You got to try.
Gotta try.
All right. Enough with that story. Let's go on to the next one.
Hopefully
all right, Amanda, here we go. Scientists invented a strange device capable of seeing multi-dimensional beings. Here we go. As a teenager, Daniel Menz had a passion for science and astronomy. So it was no surprise when he went into the field of science. Today, Daniel is both a scientist and inventor in Colombia, with him claiming he has technology to photograph multi-dimensional beings. Daniel said that his interest in the multi-dimensional universe began at a magazine article attracted his attention about the dark matter of the universe. He then came up with the idea of devising technology through optical experiments along with mathematical calculations that would allow him to take images of multi-dimensional beings. Wow. Daniel knew that his technology out there for capturing images such as black light, infrared, ultraviolet, and such, however, he went one better and found a way of capturing the unknown that was far superior. The name of that technology he invented was energy vision. Yeah, that's pretty catchy. Daniel combined special lenses along with sunlight from Mother Nature and screens that are ultra sensitive and that he invented himself. With his invention, Daniel claims that he captured images that are unknown origin. The images came from other planes and show multi-dimensional beings. Yeah. NASA and other companies must surely want to get their hands on this technology, but Daniel said he is not going to expose his invention. But he did try to make the scientific community, listen, folks, if somebody offers you $2 billion, you'd be gift wrapped in it. But he did try to make the scientific community aware of its existence. Daniel also claims the media has silenced his discovery and the images that he claims to have taken using his technology. Daniel has published many images through Facebook. When Daniel started to publish his images on social network, he had a lot of rejection and even insults toward him. Probably not because of his hair. There is no denying that these photos are strange, and in almost all of them, it is possible to see strange figures or faces. Whether they are faces and bodies of multidimensional beings from unknown worlds remains to be proven. One thing for sure is that the images are interesting to look at. Amanda, let's roll that video.
Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is your boy Say One History on the Awaken Show, and I want to talk to you today about a man by the name of Daniel Nemes. Now, just based on the name alone, a lot of people already know who I'm talking about. But for those people who are unfamiliar with Mr. Nemes, allow me to give you some background. Now, Mr. Nemes is a Spaniard currently living in Colombia. As a teenager, he has always loved science and astronomy, so it was no surprise to his friends when his vocation took him to the field of science. Currently, Nemes is a scientist and inventor, but this inventor may have stumbled onto something not of this world. Nemes says he has invented a technology that can photograph multi-dimensional beings. He also says he became fascinated with the idea when he had read a magazine article related to dark matter in the universe. Shortly after, he started to brainstorm ideas for a technology that would allow him to determine if multi-dimensions existed through optical experiments along with mathematical equations. Nemes already knew that there was technology out there for capturing images with black, infrared, and ultraviolet light. With his knowledge of this technology and his new tech of his own, he was able to take his experiments to a whole nother level. Nemes calls his invention energy vision and is capturing images of beings not of this world. He stated that he's been trying to make the scientific community aware of the multi-dimensions existence, but it's been a slow process. Nemes also says the media has silenced his discovery and the images, which makes sense, at least to me, because the media is ran by the super elite that probably already have this technology and, quite frankly, don't want it in the hands of the public. And by the way, is it just me, or does this tech sound a lot like what CERN is doing right now? And if I'm correct, CERN has also caught images of unexplained things in the past, and don't get me started on their weather when they turn on their kaleidoscope or their kaleidotron or whatever you want to call it. It just gets freaking biblical. But what do you think, guys? Has Daniel Nemes actually invented a technology that allows you to see multi-dimensional beings? Or is he just crazy? I don't know. But what I do know is that CERN is doing some experiments that are very similar to Mr. Nemes, and I don't think they would be spending all that money if this was just nonsense.
Well, I don't know either, but I'll tell you, this stuff works. I did this meditation thing, and I was able to see some multi-dimensional beings. Oh. I was able to capture them. Here's my first one. Yes, I caught him staring into my window.
What are you doing?
And I got to tell you, at first I thought the second one was my wife, but it wasn't and stuff. But let's get to the second one here. There we go.
You're in so much trouble. Every week I try to save you. Every week.
I know. But I got to tell you, the third one kept me up for 3 days.
Oh,
I got to tell you, this is one of the most scariest ones I ever saw. Of course, I'm going to be thrown off the air after the producer sees this and stuff. So anyways, Cookie, what do you think?
Oh my God, Bill is going to kill you, our lovely producer. Okay, it was interesting that he tied CERN in at the end. You know, if you go to CERN's homepage, it says, "What is the nature of our universe? What is it made of?" I mean, they're definitely trying to figure this stuff out too. I do think photographing multi-dimensional beings is possible. This is probably the story that would make me want to drink. But it reminded me, did you guys ever read The Secret Life of Water by Masaru Emoto? Yeah. So for anyone who didn't read it, I highly recommend it. The scientists photograph ice crystals, and, you know, if you feed it negative energy, even taping a negative word on a bottle of water can, you know, and then freezing these crystals, they're like disorganized, they're ugly. You do the opposite, you know, with good intention, and you make these perfect, beautiful snowflake looking crystals. So I just looking at those images, it just made me think of that because everything I saw there looked pretty negative to me. I mean, maybe it's just what I've been fed through movies.
I didn't see anything smiling, I can tell you that.
It looked pretty scary.
Yeah.
It's fun to play around with that, Katie. I actually did that. I read that book and played around with it with the sand in the tray, and you put the tones and it shakes and vibrates and it creates beautiful, almost like, I don't know if that's part of the crop circle phenomenon also, but I don't know. It's really interesting things. And he's not the only one doing that. There's actually, you know, he's a Facebook friend of mine, but he calls it bent light photography. And it's that same kind of concept where he's bending light and going into different, you know, waves of, you know, the night vision and the different spectrums of light, I guess. And he's capturing very similar things. Now, I know with that, what is it called? Parabolia, that we can make faces out of everything. Yeah, that. Thank you. So who knows? I think, you know, let's go for it and try to figure this out. I think it is possible too, if we just keep pushing it. So I'm excited that people are experimenting with this stuff, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Those were scary looking faces though.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we've been joking about this, but the truth of the matter is scientists have come out and said there's absolutely other dimensions.
Oh yeah.
And there's been papers out saying that they can prove that, and also, you know, possibly maybe the military has technology that they can open a portal to another place and see something. Of course, if Big Ugly comes out like that, I'm sorry, they can close that portal and lock the door. I mean, why can't they have something good looking? I mean, good sakes, everything in the other dimension, it looks dead ugly.
Well, maybe they peek through to our dimension. They're like, ew.
Yeah.
Maybe they think we're horrid looking. I don't know.
Oh,
although I think we're really cute. I think humans are cute.
All right. Well, that's the news for the week.
Good news. Well, not actually, maybe not good news, but
yeah,
good
500 trillion ton comet. Good news. That's pretty good news.
Good job. We'll leave it at that. Katie, case of the week.
Case of the week. Let's see. It's a category 1 case, but I chose this case because we're getting a lot into MUFON lately that are very similar of these round. I'll let the investigator say I don't think they're bugs or whatever, but it's case 121274, category 1, March 17th, 2022, 7:30 p.m. out of Davenport, Florida. It was closed as an unknown. And once again, I contacted the investigator who did this case. So Amanda, if you want to roll that video, and then I'll show the photos.
Hi, I'm Vince Maynard. I've been with Florida MUFON going on 3 years. I've been interested in UFOs a lot longer, and it's kind of neat to be able to do it whenever I want. But I've averaged probably in the last 2 years, probably a case a week, and they just keep on coming. Case that you guys contact me about, it was very similar to another case I had when I first looked at the photos, and I had a video of this other case, and to me, it just rang a bell that something very similar was happening here. The guy, you know, I get a feel for people when they call. If they get back to me right away, if there's some urgency to talk, that's when that tells me a lot right there that this, you know, these people have something to say. I looked at where they were standing and the direction they were facing. We ruled out everything it could possibly be. I always get second opinions. I don't know why. I want to make sure, for some reason, I want to make sure somebody else sees the same thing I do. Because, to me, I hate to be wrong. And in spite of some of the times we have to be, I would think. But, it was a round object. I could see it had structure to it. And I showed it to a couple other people, I think our chief investigator. And because my first thoughts when I get these things is this something that can be explained? And then I rule things out like an insect or a piece of dust on the guy's lens or whatever, could be so many things. And I always think there's got to be a reason for it other than a UFO. And when I'm done ruling that stuff out, that's how I do it. I just went ahead and made it a UAV, unknown UAV. There's there's things all over happening, and we're just not being told what's going on in the world, I think.
Yeah. So Amanda, if we want to show the first photo is again, that's a pretty far away little thing. So I zoomed in and this is what we have here. There we go. I just chose that because, I don't know if you guys remember a couple weeks ago, we had something very similar that had that pop through the cloud, had the ring. Katie, Chris, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it does look like that pop. Can you go back to the first photo? Is it just me or does it look like the sun has sunglasses on?
Yeah, or an alien face. I thought that too.
It's like the happy sunglasses emoji. Yeah, that's an interesting shape. Chris?
Mm-hmm.
I have to study it more before I like to do a comment on that, but we'll move along.
Yeah. Okay. So
yes.
Let's see. Did Chris, did you get in touch with Bob Sparing this week?
I did, as always. Bob had a nice case to send us. Amanda, why don't we roll that video of Bobby Spearing?
Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Spearing. I'm MUFON's Director of Investigations on the international side. And every week I bring you an interesting video from somewhere around the world. April 21st was a very, very interesting, busy day around the world for things that people saw in the sky. The video I'm going to show you now is actually one of 9 different cases submitted to MUFON on the 21st from the UK, from France, and from Germany and Austria. I picked the best video. We're going to look at about 30 seconds of it, and then I'm going to go into it and analyze it. Roll the video.
Another cat. And I'm curious.
What the bloody hell's that?
Okay, so what we were seeing was a bright star-like object in the sky moving to the left of the screen with a cloud in front of it. And basically what this was a SpaceX vehicle burning up in the atmosphere. When SpaceX earlier that day at 1:35 Florida time launched 53 satellites into the sky, the first stage will come back in a controlled landing, and they can reuse it. It will land on in this case, a dock out at sea off the coast of Florida. Stage 2 goes into orbit, releases the satellites, orbits the Earth, and then it comes back in a controlled burn. Also this week, there were videos of people showing a spiral in the sky. That was another Falcon 9 re-entry of the second stage. It shoots off its fuel prior to entering the atmosphere so that it doesn't explode. Sometimes it looks like a swirl. Sometimes it looks like a cloud with a storm moving with it. There were also reports that night of strings of lights in the sky, and basically that was the Starlink satellite train that was released by this rocket. Let's look at this one JPEG here that I have loaded up from an article that day. You can see that all over Europe, people were witnessing this video of the star-like object with its associated cloud. It was simply a rocket burning up. To somebody who's not familiar with UFOs, it's a very interesting thing to video, and MUFON received multiple reports that day about this occurrence, which you can find in our CMS system. So that's it for today. We have another IFO, and hopefully I'll be back next week to give you another interesting video to look at. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Nice haircut. Yeah, we had a lot of reports in Colorado too. In fact, my son sent me pictures of that very event. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's so good. He's such a good investigator. And speaking of investigators, I understand we have some new MUFON field investigators, right?
We do, Amanda, if you want to roll the new FIs. Well, it's that time of the month again to welcome our new MUFON field investigators and to also thank our current field investigators for all of the hard work you do investigating these cases that come into our CMS system. Truly, it is the heart of MUFON and everything that we do. So thank you all so much. Let's just jump right into it. We have so many new people coming in, and that's super exciting to see. So congratulations to new field investigators. We have Austin Phillips out of Texas, William Rucker out of Texas, Michael Sneen out of Southern California, Sandy Schultz out of Maryland, Joseph Donaghy out of Massachusetts, Anthony LaFemina out of New York, Donald Nepper out of Maryland, Frank Schesinger out of New Jersey, Ford Fitch out of Arkansas, Megan Grunza out of Texas, Candace Sams out of North Carolina, John Holleran out of Arizona, Mark Krishner out of Connecticut, Jackson Sisk out of Illinois, James Spear out of Australia, Carlos Argensoni out of New Mexico, Austin Chase Cummings from Michigan, Stephen Worthington out of Puerto Rico, Richard Taylor out of New Mexico, Robin Perot out of Vermont, Tony Gianfrido out of Massachusetts, Linda Thompson out of Virginia, and Monica Genfaldoni out of Italy. I would also like to congratulate our new appointees. We have Melvin Marsh, who is the State Section Director out of Georgia, Timothy Caney, the Assistant State Director from Wisconsin, Thomas Ness, Assistant State Director out of New York, Melton Van Vickel, the Chief Investigator and the Chief Madar Analyst out of Missouri, Sam Whittington, the Chief Investigator out of Kentucky, Jennifer Westfall, State Section Director out of New York, Martin Snow, the State Section Director for New York, Seth Feinstein, the Assistant State Director for Colorado, Stephen Bates, the Assistant State Director and also made the STAR team out of Texas, Melanie Young, the Chief Investigator and also made the STAR team out of Texas, Brian Lindley made the Case Assistant Group CAG out of Utah, Dean Diaporte, not sure what the title is, it wasn't in the magazine, but whatever it is, congratulations to Dean out of Minnesota, Paul Eno, the ERT consultant out of Rhode Island, Alex Tusia made ERT in Colorado, Charlotte Simmons, ERT in Illinois, Andrew Simmons, ERT in Illinois, and Christopher Harmon, ERT in Illinois. I'm so glad to see so many people get involved in the ERT, which is the Experiencer Resource Team. So congratulations to all of you new field investigators and all of the new appointees. Congratulations, and we will see you next month. Sorry, I butchered so many names. There's some tough names in there.
Now you know how I feel.
I know. I thought about you, Chris. I'm like, oh boy. Anyway, congratulations, all of you guys. It's great to have you on board. Speaking of field investigators, ERT, and MUFON, I think now would be a great time to bring on our guest. What do you guys say?
Perfect.
All right. Let me read Earl's bio. Earl Gray Anderson is MUFON State Director of Southern California and is an active member of MUFON's ERT. Earl will be heading up all of the experiencer events and panels at this year's MUFON Symposium in Denver. Earl has personally investigated over 700 UFO reports and specializes in experiencer and high strangeness cases. He has appeared on multiple radio shows, podcasts, and TV shows such as Unidentified with Demi Lovato, the Travel Channel's Storming Area 51 special, and the season finale of Motor Trend Television's Motor Mythbusters Cars vs. UFOs. Earl teaches an accredited course in ufology at Los Angeles' Otis College of Art and Design. He was stuck in traffic just today coming back from there. A native of Southern California, Earl is also known as a published singer, songwriter, guitarist with 3 CDs under his belt, a recently retired nurse, having finished a 36-year-long stretch of caring for quadriplegics and vent-dependent patients. Earl dotes on his 3 children and 3 grandchildren and lives happily with his wife, Lisa. He has 2 cats, Gigi and Thor. Welcome to the show, Earl. It's so great to have you on.
Hi, how are you doing, you guys? It's good to be on too. Look, I brought my little guy. He's all set for Mardi Gras. Actually, came back from Mardi Gras.
So he's been drinking too, probably.
I don't know what he exposed to the parade to get these beads.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah. Those are some good beads.
Yeah.
That's funny. Hey, I want to jump in and ask you about that Motor Trend Mythbusters Cars versus UFO. What the heck was that all about? I find that fascinating.
That was fun. That was fun to do. Well, I always used to watch Mythbusters, and it's kind of cool. The prof that I teach my class with over at Otis College was the original Mythbusters girl, is Heather Joseph Witham. PhD and a folklorist and very, very smart and knows that UFO phenomena is a very real thing, which helps in teaching the class. And but anyway, I received the the request through the MUFON office. I'll sometimes get media stuff through them, and they needed a UFO expert for a show where they wanted to use science and kind of by rote, they went through all the various UFOs interactions with cars, particularly in Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which was based on actual cases. There was the police chase that was in there was based on a case that actually happened. And also, you remember when Richard Dreyfuss's truck is stuck in that little train crossing and the UFO passes right over him and everything's going crazy. And they were able to reproduce that whole scene using both by using like an EP. They sent an electromagnetic charge at the car, a pulse. That didn't stop the engine, but it did some weird things to the radio and other things. But then they used an electromagnet that just lifted everything up to the ceiling, and it more or less recreated that scene. I'm not sure exactly how Spielberg did it in the film, but it was pretty impressive to see in real life. And I was just impressed because they wanted to, stick with the scientific method, and they approached the phenomenon in a serious way, and they got some serious results. And that was kind of the full episode. They had me talk a little bit about past cases where UFOs had interactions with cars. You can actually stream it on Motor Trends Television, which is available through through Apple iTunes and various other, wherever you get your Netflix and the other streaming services. You can just play it and stream it whenever you want. So there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Something about that with all the anomalies with the cars and stalling the motors and all that, that was a big phenomenon in the 70s and into the 80s. And that seems to have gone down. Do you have any thoughts on that? Why that could be? We don't hear it so much anymore.
I still get reports where, people's electrical appliance, usually, the person will, at the last minute, the last few seconds, usually of a UFO sighting, they'll remember their cognition will come back enough to where they remember they have such a thing as a camera in their pocket that everybody carries around now. And so every now and then I'll actually get a video or something like that. But anyway, the phenomena definitely does still interact with people's electronic appliances. Especially, when somebody has had an encounter with beings. We notice poltergeist-like effects where televisions will turn off and on. I've seen this myself, actually.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I've seen this with my own eyes, where poltergeist-type activity was happening after somebody that I knew had a visitation, and she had a painting flew off the wall and landed face down on the floor. It was just, back then, it was before I had really studied the UFO phenomenon to the point where I understand it now. So I just thought that, we needed to do a sage ceremony or something. I thought that she had a haunting going on, but in retrospect, it was no haunting. It was the after effects from a close encounter.
Oh,
and
interesting. Yeah, like you, Katie, with your painting falling off, off that video you shared. Maybe it was ET.
Yeah, well, who knows? So let's carry on with that paranormal thought then, because we talk about this. I feel like almost every single week on this show, it comes up that there does seem to be that connection between contact and experiencers and just general paranormal activity. And we always talk about it in this kind of chicken or egg way. Did the person have contact because they've always had this thinner veil around them, or does contact trigger this? Like, what are your thoughts on how this could go hand in hand?
I think they're interrelated. I'm very much so a Jacques Vallée fan. I love Jacques Vallée, the way that he looks at this phenomenon. My friend Renario Hernandez, who runs the free group that Edgar Mitchell started, his new book is coming out. His first book was Beyond UFOs, and he talked about a lot of the phenomenology that happens around close encounters. The new book that he's just about to publish is going to be about the effects that people experience around this phenomenon, and he's seeing it as a spectrum. It's just like the electromagnetic spectrum, where you have radio, visual, sight, infrared, and ultraviolet, and all these different layers to it. It's like a little miniature universe, but it's all one thing. And it's the same way, I think, with phenomenology. I think that the UFO phenomenon and certain other phenomena that we've considered paranormal are actually one and the same. It's just different attributes of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Earl, I got a question for you. I want to bring it back because both of us are on the ERT team.
Yes, we are.
We've had great
Hi,
conversation.
Chris.
Yeah, it's great. Awesome to see you here.
Captain, my captain.
And Captain, my captain. But my question to you is, one thing you've never talked about when we had the ERT meetings, if you're an experiencer, have you had an experience?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Tell us about that.
That's a long story, but I'll try.
We got a long time, so you might as well start at the beginning.
I have a little prelude for it. Well, today, in my UFO class that I teach, we tried a CE5 meditation. I had a group of 20-some students who we took an hour of time out, and we got into a meditative state and more or less direct our thoughts, asking for the phenomenon to express itself to us, to reveal itself to the people in the room. But bringing up Jacques Vallée again, I've seen that the after effect of having a face-to-face experience when you've actually met the entities, or it sometimes happens if you have a close encounter even with a craft, is that there's this thing called the Vallée-Davis effect, where the humans involved in something like that will start manifest what we would consider ET gifts and ET attributes. People tend to become very spiritual. They become empathic. Telepathy is oftentimes enhanced, where they start hearing their partner's thoughts and their children's thoughts and friends. And if you talk with Kevin Day, he's experienced this since the Tic Tac event that happened back in 2004. It became so heightened for him that he needed to talk with some people to figure out what was going on. It was scary for him. But these are all effects that happen when you've had a close encounter. Myself, I started doing a CE5 meditation back 7 years ago when I first started working as a field investigator. I was kind of flip about it. It was just, I used to meditate when I was younger, and I did a meditation, with like a focal point, and I even used a mantra, and I got into a meditative state where I could feel where I was one with things, is the best way to describe it. And I put a request out there. I said, I want to meet you face to face. Now, I didn't say who I wanted to meet. In retrospect, I would say if any of you guys try it, you should always say, I want to meet benevolent beings. I don't want to be abducted. You can't have my DNA, but I want to meet you if you're benevolent and because humanity needs to be elevated as a species, our consciousness and everything else, I believe, which may be the reason why they're here anyway. I did that for a couple of weeks, and I really wasn't thinking too much about it, but I did make an effort. I went up to sleep after I was actually working on a UFO case, which turned out to be a Mylar party balloon. I knocked the case off as an IFO, and I talked with a witness, and I was very nice with him. It was like, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was a UFO that looked exactly like a Mylar party balloon, but I have to put down in the case what I see here, and it's an obvious star-shaped Mylar balloon. I went upstairs. I got relaxed. I lay back, and I had an experience. We lived in a kind of a loud area in Burbank, but there's a thing called the Oz effect, where we had a cricket problem in the rafters, and there were no crickets. Normally, you would hear traffic. You would hear the freeway. You would hear, we were on the Chandler bike path where we were living. There was always noise. It sounded like a soundproofed room. It was quieter than quiet. And this glow started filling our bedroom. My wife was next to me. She was dead asleep, which is unusual. She generally has insomnia, but she was completely out. I'm feeling relaxed. I'm not even really thinking about what the hell is going on here. But for some reason there was this light without a source that was filling our room. And the more the light became present, the more calm I felt. I noticed the middle of our room started spinning around. It looked sort of like if you pour milk into your coffee or cream into your coffee, like this little galaxy kind of effect where it was spinning. I noticed I couldn't move at this point, and it probably was maybe happening for 2.5 minutes at this point. And the wall actually opened up, and I had beings come through. They were the small grays that are 4 foot tall. They didn't walk up. It was as though they were just carried to me somehow, like they floated over the floor somehow. They were there, and I was trying to make telepathic contact with them. There was a taller being that was standing opening in the wall, and I could see this opening the whole time. And I'll tell you this, there was no room between our old house and the neighbor's house to park a spaceship. So it had to have been some kind of an interdimensional portal, or for lack of better terminology, we all kind of use the portal or Stargate term. Mm-hmm. They took blood from me, and they took they took what energy. I'm not sure if it was the same thing, but it felt like life force coming out of me, and I wasn't being contacted telepathically, and I was really scared. At this point, I'd read enough literature. I think I had read Intruders by Bud Hopkins at that point, and a couple of other things. And usually people will receive a calming message. For me, it seemed like the beings that I had were all business. They worked like a surgical floor. And it was scary like that. I don't know whose dogs are loose.
The dogs were scared.
Well, that was pretty much the reaction I had. But, here's the thing, now I took care of quadriplegics for many years, and suddenly I was rendered a quad. And the only thing I could really do was breathe and move my eyes. I couldn't shout. I wanted to shout. It took maybe 10, 15 minutes. They got what they wanted. They left the same way that they came in, through the wall. The wall closed up. As soon as I could, there was still light in the room, this ambient light with no source. As soon as I could move, I was like yelling. I was yelling and screaming. Now my wife, she kind of goes along with stuff. I had become a MUFON field investigator, and her reaction to this was, oh my God, you're hanging out with these crazy UFO people, and now this has happened. What do I have to look forward to in the future? Was the attitude, and I just kind of curled up. She wasn't having it. She didn't believe me. 2 nights after, my wife has shaken me awake. And our room was, again, there was light in our room with no source. And she'll tell you that herself, that there was no source for this light. It wasn't coming through the window. It wasn't coming from an object. It was just like it was poured into the room. And she's pacing back and forth next to the bed. And she says, Earl, you need to tell your little friends that they need to leave us the F alone. She used that word, right? Yeah. I already have, I have insomnia, and I can't deal with this, and I don't need this. And she was just mad. But the good news was she didn't think I was crazy anymore. Mm-hmm. A couple nights after that, we both got up, and this time the light was coming through our window. We both went to the window. It was from over our house. There was no sound of a police copter rotor that you would hear. It was perfectly silent. There were neighbors' lights that were going on, patio lights that you could see. So I don't think that we were the only ones that actually saw something. And that was our weird week. That was 7 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, be careful what you wish for. I mean, you do have to ask to participate in this. And one of our listeners in chat, American Road Warrior, wanted to know if Stephen Greer played a part in your CE5 trials. Do you work with his protocols, or do you do something different?
I did it myself. Okay. I didn't really. I'm cheap. I'm not going to pay somebody, a bunch of money to do a CE5. And I'll tell you, it worked. Today we did the same thing in class. We didn't have a visitation or anything, but I was really directing and focusing energy that my students would be elevated as humans, that their consciousness would be elevated, and we'll see what happens. I told them, watch the sky, just be sensitive, and if anything happens, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, it's so important to make sure that you surround yourself in that positive white light, in that you set the intention out there not to invite anything lower vibrational or lower energy in there. And we only have a couple more minutes to break, but I just wanted to make a quick comment too, that, what you spoke about, and I hope we can continue this discussion after our break also, that the late Dr. Leo Sprinkle, PhD, worked with experiencers and contactees for almost 4 decades. And he saw that same sort of trend, that spiritual awakening, that mission or purpose, and it can start somewhere that's fearful and scary. And it just awakens these things in these contactees and experiencers. And I want to dig a little more deep into that. But we have 3 minutes left. What is your advice for people who, will all of a sudden wake up and have an experience with whomever is in their room? Do you have any advice for folks?
You shouldn't be afraid. There are different entities that are visiting us. I think that some of them have different motives than others, but I think that they all have to be okay to be here. I think that there is there's somebody out there who's in charge of who gets in here. Whether they're here to steal your DNA or to enlighten you, regardless, the contact seems to initiate or engage. It flips the light switch on for people to have more empathy, more telepathy, and other gifts. It's a thing, and that's the hopeful thing that I've found in the experiencer phenomenon, that people have horror stories, or they might meet the E.T. Buddha sometimes, and people do. Sometimes scary looking creatures, the praying mantis creatures are the ones that are very compassionate and the most telepathic is what we've found. But, a lot of it just has to do with attitude. If you're just afraid, if you're seen as a negative and just get away from me, I don't want this. And, that's xenophobia. And I don't think that it will do what it's supposed to do. I could be wrong. Maybe it will anyway. I don't know. but for me, I had this really scary, experience that people didn't want to believe right off. Now, I talked with my friend Peter Robbins after it happened, and he was very compassionate, and he had some answers for me. And I also ultimately met Kathleen Marden through all this, and I didn't think that I was going to be joining the ERT. Right. She heard my story, and that's when she asked me to join. Right. So it's been nothing but blessings really for me, and I feel like I'm able to make intellectual leaps and things now that I wasn't able to do before I had my experience.
Right. That's a great point, to make sure you reach out and contact others. Speaking of Kathleen Marden, she will be our guest next week. Another great little tip is to journal these things and start, trying to strengthen that gift muscle of, practice intuition and psychic readings and that. But it is break time. So more on this thought when we get back, and we will see you guys after break.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Scrolling all day, time can disappear. Wanna make it count? Why not volunteer?
Posting pics of your food, that takes up time. Time, you got time to binge all of season 9, though it got so bad.
Time, you got time. We're gonna grow back and be the same browse you had.
Just a few hours to keep families from harm. Help us end home fires, but sound the alarm.
Volunteer for a day to install free smoke alarms in your community.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected. Only at kgradb.com.
Hey, we are back with Earl Grey. What are you guys, Swami or something? I'm telling you, I know you guys must be smoking some ganja before the show.
Busted. We're busted, Tim.
Anyways, we are back with Earl Grey, the man Anderson, who I love and adore. He's a great guy. Earl, I gotta say before we get into the question, I gotta say I'm a little worried about the CE5 conjuring up these creatures because, I'm not that lucky of a guy. I probably get a reptilian and he want to look at me as like a rump roast or something like that. I just can't. I can't see that. My wife passed me a note and say, "Please teach me how to have you abducted." So I will. I got to tell you, she's not allowed to listen to these shows anymore. So I will tell you this. You are not allowed to talk to my wife because I don't want her to know how to get me abducted. I'd like it here on planet Earth. All right. Let's get with the thoughts. All right. So, there's many reasons why we're being visited. Everybody's got an idea of why we're being visited by aliens and stuff like, curiosity, scientific reasons, food for the farm. I don't know. But Earl, you've been studying this for so long. I'd love to find out your thoughts of why they're here and what do they want.
Well, I think some of it is if you look back at the old reports when people first started seeing landings, they would see usually humanoids, sometimes in silver like spacesuits, more or less, digging up foliage and rock samples, and it's kind of like Apollo on the moon, but this was before there was Apollo on the moon. It was during the 1940s and 50s. But as time goes on, you see that people were having face-to-face contact, and it seemed that there was certainly a DNA farming thing that was going on for a long time. May still be going on now, actually. I still get people that, women that have their ova taken and men will have their sperm taken. I mean, those still they're rare cases now, not like they used to be. It used to be that you'd get them all the time. Most of the people that have face-to-faces now, a lot of people get downloads. I had one police officer who was on duty. He was checking out this bridge where they had a lot of guys that like to go and drink, out of paper bags and stuff. And he was doing his rounds and he was sitting there writing out his report. And then this bright light started shining on the right-hand side of his cruiser. He's looking out there and there's something hanging there in the sky over his police cruiser. The guy is all alone. And he's wondering what is out there. When he said that it seemed, there was a bright flash and it seemed like all the air was pulled out of his car somehow. And he was suddenly in this classroom setting where he couldn't move his head. It was like he could see a blackboard and there was this little gray hand with a pointer pointing to equations on this blackboard. Yeah. I don't really know how to. I mean, this guy was on duty. He's a decorated cop. He's respected, and he got some blowback from his fellow officer.
Really?
Yes, because he did tell him what happened. It's like leave it to you to get abducted from your squad car, but he got these downloads. They happened for over the period of a month. And then it would happen. He would fall asleep at night. And again, it was like going to school. You'd go to sleep and there is this thin, four-fingered hand with a pointer that he believes was teaching him about 0-point energy. He spoke with a physicist friend, and he what he could remember, he was writing out. This guy said that he was a D student in math.
Wow.
But he's suddenly, on the level of an Einstein or Stephen Hawking or something.
The next Tesla.
Yeah. Well, a month went by and then it stopped. And that's when he got a hold of MUFON. He said, well, I want to get what I learned back, And he was told telepathically that this will come back when it's needed. And I hear that from people. And it seems like a lot of people are getting downloads. They're getting arcane and strange knowledge, and they're having their telepathy is being raised. Their levels of connection with other humans. So my feeling is that the ultimate goal, whoever is in charge there, whether it be Council of Eight or whoever it is, and I don't know, I'm not in touch with the Council of Eight. You can talk with Kathleen about that. But I do believe that there are entities that are above all this that's going on, that allow what's going on. And I think that regardless of the motive of our visitors, when they meet us, they give us this contagion, this cosmic contagion that makes us into, I believe, better humans. That
Earl,
brings
let me
up our
piggyback on my
telepathy.
question, because you brought up something that's very interesting, and I got to ask you this. You said this police officer got these equations for possibly zero energy. Isn't it kind of funny? Now, aliens are super advanced. They know what they're doing, the whole bit. Why would you go to a cop? Why not put this into a scientist where it's semi-understandable? This guy goes, if an alien came to me and says, hey, I'm going to teach you about 0-point energy, I was like, yeah, okay, I got a better chance of learning where to find Jesus before I can find 0-point energy. You know what I mean?
That was this guy's attitude too. It was, why me?
Yeah, it would
why
be
not
my attitude.
Somebody from Harvard, but it was him.
I
know another guy who's a TSA agent who has a very similar story. It was one of the very early abduction cases that I got from MUFON. It was about 6 years ago. And this guy was one of the head guys of Homeland Security at a major airport. I'm going to keep these guys anonymous because it can ruin jobs and ruin lives if you're suddenly exposed in public who you are. But this gentleman, I've known him for 6 years now. I've supped with his family, supped, not slept. Supped, had dinner with, I've hung out with him, and I know him very, very well. He's a pilot, so he was actually flying out for our MUFON meetings for a while. But he had downloads. His experiences started when he was 7 years old. I've spoken with his family. His mom and dad are still with us. They called it his night terrors when he was a 7-year-old boy. But he would have the same entities come to him each time. They would float this machine into his room that would hang over his bed. And when he was a little kid, this would happen, and he would be paralyzed while it was happening. When it was over, he'd be screaming and yelling, and there was no way to console him. Now he's in his, I believe, his early or mid 50s, probably. Family man, very much respected. And he was the head of Homeland Security for a major airport here in Los Angeles. He still gets visits. They've slowed down. They happened quite often, at least once a month when he was young. But it's almost like a tune-up, he says, that he feels like they're coming. And maybe it's, for me, I've had, since my initial experience, I had a couple of UFO sightings. They both seemed to be teachable moments for me, like I was being shown something, not like they were doing an air show for giggles. There was definitely something that they were trying to teach me about space-time and the nature of our reality. And I think that the initial experience I had opened me to that. But it seems more like, I think that the scientists are being contacted, people like Ari Loeb, who really risked his career. He is a Harvard guy, I believe. He's Harvard, I believe. He was a scientist that talked about the Oumuamua object, which was another. They wanted to call it a meteor, they wanted to call it a comet, but it didn't act like a comet. It didn't act like a meteor. When it got close to the sun, it accelerated the opposite direction they were expecting it to accelerate, and it started accelerating towards the sun. And normally with a comet, it gets closer and it starts outgassing and goes the opposite direction. The thing was shaped like this large, a large cylinder. It was sort of like Arthur C. Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama novel, if anybody out there likes science fiction. They almost called the object Rama, but they went with the Hawaiian Oumuamua. But I think scientists are being contacted. There sure are a load of them. I know them myself. We just heard from one guy in the ERT meeting who was working over at Skinwalker Ranch. He was an excellent scientist. And so that's happening too, but I think it's happening all over. I think that it's a species-wide thing that's going on here.
Yeah. What scares me are these PhDs that go missing in Missing 411. I hear that with David Pilates, but yeah.
I in the Missing 411, I'm not going to say anything pro or against it. I honestly don't know. The people that I've met who have had alien contact seem to be happy in their lives usually. There's a few people that just never get over the ontological shock and feel like they're being invaded. But most, I would say a good 98% of the people, whether they had a good experience or something scary like I had, the benefits that they start exhibiting afterwards, they feel like there's a benevolence that's involved here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ontological shock. That was a John Mack?
Yeah, John Mack he coined the phrase. It's when your sense of reality is pulled out from under you like a rug.
Yeah.
And that may be the main reason why they're doing this, that we think in certain very limited terms. We think inside the box so much, and there's no magical realism in our world. But if you look at quantum physics, it's like magic. It's crazy. Every point in the universe is connected. And that's how telepathy works. That's how, apparently how faster than light speed travel works, according to Ben Rich from Lockheed. But that sounds like magic. It sounds like something that alchemy. You would hear it from a guy in a wizard's cap. But that's what science says.
Yeah.
But still, the public, we're still back in Newtonian physics. You drop a rock, hits the ground. If you fall, you skin your knee. You need a Band-Aid, and that's it's just very cause and effect. Whereas the universe is different from that. It's not so cause and effect as we think. It's kind of all one big mishmash.
Yeah. I've got a couple questions. First of all, Cosmic Contagion is my new rock band name.
Maybe the title of my book. I don't know. It's either the Cosmic Contagion or the Cosmic. There's a couple ideas there, but anyway. But I do think it's like a contagion. I do think it's like a contagion.
I need to hear drummer.
The one you want
is the Kashmir Colliders.
Kathleen Martin reminded me when I was talking to her a few years ago, but well, what do they want? What are they here for? And she's like, well, we're dealing with a lot of different kinds. You have to keep that in mind. And I think it's important for people to remember experiencers. You can be an experiencer that's had really good experiences and a couple negative ones. And I don't think that means you're not enlightened enough or whatever. We're dealing with different
They run
kinds.
The gamut, and it depends on the entity that you meet. A lot of it.
Yeah, I like your advice about trying to stay calm and not being afraid because, I think in general, overall you're going to come out going, that was actually a pretty special experience and it means something and it does wake up something inside of you. It doesn't mean necessarily you're going to enjoy it as it's happening. That's okay. I don't think that, that's just human. When you wake up and something's by your bed, it's like, oh my God. But real quick, I really want to circle back to the week of weirdness and the white light, but we had a really good question in chat from Android Purity. Does anyone know if MUFON investigators have a higher rate of being abducted after becoming an investigator? Are they being targeted potentially?
Wow. Boy, that's a good question. Good question. And MUFON should maybe ask that,
Well,
that's a really
good thought
question
on this, but I wanted to get your thought first.
I think, yes, I there were a few years there where I didn't feel comfortable talking about my own experience. I'd seen too many rolled eyes, and when it happened, I was afraid I was going to get fired. There you go. We were at the Project Blue Book launch party, and they had a little abduction booth with dry ice and all that. Anyway, but my state director was my good friend, Jeff Krause, who's still a very good and close friend, and who's kind of taught me how to do this thing using the scientific method. But he was kind of a nuts and bolts guy back then. And here is this new field investigator saying, well, yeah, I met aliens. It's not what he wanted to hear. He wanted to hear that he was happy that I had closed the case as an IFO, the balloon, right? That was good. But since then, Jeff himself, he's had some interesting, he's had some contact himself. So okay. I think that it happens to a lot of us. I think that if you're poking at the universe, you can't be surprised when it pokes back.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think it's that. I also think you might be drawn to become an investigator because deep down you've had an experience. Yes. If you've had one, you're probably going to have more. It kind of goes back to that chicken and egg thing. If I could circle back. So literally my jaw hit the ground when you were talking about your week of weirdness with the white light, because I've had almost the exact same thing happen to me years ago. In 1 week, it happened twice with my ex-husband. One location was in New Jersey. The second one a few days later was in Nashville. Now ours, as far as I know, wasn't a drawn out experience, but it literally, with no source in the room, was blinding white light. And I've always been so thankful that I didn't experience that particular experience alone. It's always given me a lot of comfort that I had a witness, basically. And so my question is, did you know right away what was going on? Did you have to remember it later or go through hypnosis, or did you immediately after it happened go, I just know everything that's happened to me?
Well, I knew it was happening as soon as they started coming through the wall. That was, yeah, that was it, because it was them. We've all seen artists' renditions of the small grays, and that was them. They looked like they had dolphin skin. The big black reflective eyes, and they looked at me the whole time. They never stopped looking at me. Even when they were leaving, they left backwards. It was like they were pulled out backwards, like they were standing on a platform. I don't know how they managed to do it, but they didn't walk out. They just kept looking at me, and I watched them fade into distance, and the wall came back together, and there you go.
Okay, so no missing time, obviously.
I didn't have missing time that I know of. I think that there may be some missing memories. I know that a lot of what I was feeling at the time was shock and fear. And I was really trying to communicate. I was really, really trying to communicate, but there just was no communication there, which is rare. People sometimes will, I have one friend that had an experience out in Arizona where he was, the whole time he was communicated with. It was one of the Mantis guys. Yeah, it was telepathic communication. Yeah. He was not paralyzed. He was able to walk around, and he was like backed all the way to the wall as far as he could back up in this craft. And this pilot that looked like something out of National Geographic insect episode is communicating with him, but very, very calmly. and logically. And for my friend, this was an amazing experience. It opened his eyes up. He was kind of a nuts and bolts guy himself. And that gets you over that really quickly.
Yeah.
Katie, did you have telepathic communication with your experience? I'm just curious.
I have had that, but that's kind of an experience that I'm not really comfortable talking about yet. But with the white light situation, no, it just was absolute blinding white light that surrounded us.
With
and it
no
seemed to happen fast.
Yeah.
No sound at all. And we jumped up, and I immediately checked for what I thought could be missing time, although I couldn't really tell you exactly when the event began. It was just in the middle of the night both times. But I have had telepathic stuff, and I don't know how that happens. I wish I could, just get that on command. It would come in really useful sometimes.
Me too. and it's not light proper. I mean, because light you need a source for, and this was like it was just poured into the room. The room didn't have a concentric point. The whole room was lighting up at the same level of light at the same time.
Yeah, I always say I don't
strange.
think I'm not sure I could have seen my hand in front of my face. It's like every little atom was the light. I don't know any other way to explain it. But like you said, it wasn't that there was a source. It was just the light was everything. And for all I know, we were light for a moment. It was like it was just all encompassing.
They had one sighting at Skinwalker Ranch where one of the guys actually jumped into this pond that was there because it was so bright he could actually see the bones in his hand. And this guy is a serious person. So yep.
Wow,
it's a thing.
And Katie, what a great question that was.
Yes,
I mean, I'm just absolutely amazed because these things are real. They're happening to people all over the place. And, it's very hard sometimes, as you know, Earl, to get people to talk about it. But here I'm going to move into a different direction. So I truly believe it. You truly believe it. Aliens exist. They're here. They've been around. But are they here? Are they on the planet Earth? Are they walking around us? A lot of famous scientific people have said yes. They're walking by us. They're, living day to day just like we are right here. Do you think that we have some maybe alien species underground or in the water or maybe just in the apartment next to us?
Yes. I think they're here. I think that they're living incognito with us. I have some good sources. Yes.
Okay, so the guy that lives down the street that acts like an idiot, he could be an alien, or I mean,
try to treat him nicely. Yeah. No, I mean, it's the old it's a Bible verse. Be careful. People have entertained angels unaware, and I think that you could just fill the word angels with aliens and you're right on, spot on there.
Do you think they know that they're aliens, or do they agree to be
no, I think they absolutely know.
Okay.
I think the Pentagon is aware of certain people and that that's I think is unequivocal.
What about in the water and stuff? Do you think we have another species living on this planet besides us?
There's certainly a lot of stuff going on off of Catalina Island, whether it's underwater species or if they're just hiding down there. I couldn't tell you. I don't know anybody that's seen a being so far that has been connected with a Tic Tac or any of the things that have been going on there, but we keep getting cases off of Catalina Island. I had one that I cross-checked with Kevin Day. I gave him the coordinates of this one sighting that we had by a commercial pilot of this gold ball that came out of the ocean and was doing like this crosswise dance in the sky and then shot back down into the ocean, shot back up out, and then like split through the atmosphere. And this guy he is a commercial pilot. He was with his wife and brother-in-law. They were at the East Catalina Island campsite, and he got them out there. He was not the only set of eyes on it, but I'm glad that he was a set of eyes that were on it because he was very good at dead reckoning. He said it was 10 miles off the shore, which is kind of concentrically between Catalina Island and the mainland. And that was a very, very good UFO report. And we have others that come out from the same area. And Kevin Day checked those coordinates, and they were the exact same coordinates of where they found the Tic Tac when it appeared. The exact same coordinates, which is, that's beyond. For me, that's just beyond just coincidence. There's something down there.
I think so. I think you're right.
Maybe a portal. I mean, I think that they have portals. That's how they come in and how they leave, and that that they're in specific places, and there's probably one down there.
I want to ask you, this is, I actually had a weird experience. I will say this really quick on Catalina Island. I took my husband there for his 40th birthday, and I didn't know that I had ever been to Catalina Island before, and I'd always wanted to go. Of course, I'm looking out for UFOs and stuff, but there's this weird, almost looks like an Egyptian house or something that's like up on this, like high peak that you can hike up to in this park. And the weird thing is, I got in there and I was like, my God, I've been here before. I felt so much like I had lived in this place. It was, and I do believe in past lives. I do have memories. Sometimes I'm just like, where is this coming from? But I don't, I don't know. I'm a little on the fence if that's real. But I had this really strong memory that I had been there before, and I was freaking out about it. Anyway, I said to my mother, I was like, you're not going to believe this. We were on Catalina Island. I swear it felt so familiar being in this Egyptian, place. And she's like, oh yeah, I took you there as a baby. I was like, oh, I didn't even know.
I love it.
So that
was a memory.
Wow. Like an actual from this life. But I was like, maybe I was Cleopatra. Maybe it was like having this Egyptian flashback. No, I went there as a baby. Anyway, let's totally switch gears for a moment, because you have a fascinating story of how you got into all of this, and it involves your mother and some really, really trippy stuff. Can we get into that?
You're hitting all the talking points. Sure. Well, that's really how I first got into this. My mom. It was no secret. The family all knew, and it was his mom's old job. But my mom was one of Howard Hughes's 2 private secretaries. He had 2 of them. He used to communicate with my mom over an intercom system. She was at the old Sepulveda Hughes building in the 1950s. And when I was about 5 years old, my mom told me this weird story about how she had worked in this little city under the desert. And she told me the whole thing, that they took me out. I had a couple guys with me, and there was this shack, it was like a concrete shack. She talked about it later on a little bit and gave me kind of updated some of the details. But she said that they got in this elevator and it kept going down and it kept going down, and that she felt butterflies in her stomach was how she described it. She felt vertigo because this elevator kept going down. She said that the doors had opened and that there was this little city under the desert that they got around in golf carts. She said that there were a lot of German scientists that were working down there, and this was Hughes's operation. She said that she had a guy that could, there was a barber shop, and there was a guy that could do her hair for her. That there were restaurants, a movie theater, a bowling alley. And she talked about this one cafe that had little yellow umbrellas over the tables like you would have in a French cafe. And she would laugh at that because she said, you don't need an umbrella in a cave. But I guess they were, trying to make us feel at home. And I grew up with that story. And it was, I didn't think anything of it. It was just, Dad worked for, this medical company, and then he which didn't go well, and he wound up self-employed as a landscaper. Mom worked for Howard Hughes back before she was my mom. She said that she worked there while she was pregnant with me. So apparently I'd been down there. Wow. And she said that she also spoke with authority about intelligence off of Earth. She said that it was a real thing. We went to see the movie Star Wars back in 1977, and it was near where my mom used to work. And she had just gotten a clear cancer screening because she kept getting cancers over her life, which is another thing about working in deep underground bases. Apparently that's a thing. But she got a clear screening, and we watched the film, and the credits are going down the screen. There were only a few people in the theater because the film had only been out for 2 days. It was on the Tuesday. And she started talking about, you have no idea how close to life that film was, son. Intelligent life in the universe is very, very real. The government knows. They'll never tell the people. They'll never tell everybody because it would scare them. I believe she brought up War of the Worlds and the radio broadcast and some of that stuff. And if I ever get hypnotically regressed, I want to go back to 1977 so I remember every bit of that conversation. At the time, it was kind of an inconvenient truth. I was a pre-seminary student. I didn't really have room for the idea of ETs in my world. I was kind of uncomfortable with what she was saying, and I was almost like, la, 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 la. It's like, what's she talking about? What the hell, But as time went on, the idea just grew in me, and and that is really what planted the seed, which led to me becoming a MUFON field investigator and eventually state director of California, as I am right now, talking with you guys.
Wow. So these underground bases, if you were underground, your mom was underground. I mean, first of all, where was that, if you can say? Secondly,
I don't know. She said the Great American Desert. She never specified. I've done some research. I talked to Richard Sauter, who's written a few books on the subject, and he actually has some documentation that shows that Hughes had one of the first private labs at Area 51, and that it opened in 1954-55. So it meets the criteria of my mom's story, but whether that was the place or not, I don't know. There's another one that's out here in Tehachapi that Northrop owns. It's got 20 different levels to it, apparently. That's been there a long time. Wow. We have plenty of underground bases. Which one it was, I don't know. She did, when she would see Werner von Braun on TV, like on E! or something, she'd say, "That's my friend Werner."
Oh,
she said that she knew him, that he called her Betty Grace, which was her first and middle name put together. And she said he was a charming man. So that's my mom.
Yeah. We all know Howard Hughes kind of lost his mind there,
Yes.
I mean, could that be because of his contact with ET or extraterrestrial beings?
Maybe.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, a little bit?
Ontological shock is a thing. And if you don't have anything, it can throw a person's life into a totally different direction. That's what it did with me. So could be of one of the things that added to his paranoia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think Lucas could have gotten downloads to create all of this?
Perhaps. I think that certain science fiction writers maybe knew stuff. Arthur C. Clarke, some of his books are pretty close to what I found things really are, like. Yeah. And Spielberg and Lucas are certainly interested in this, and they keep returning, to the subject. So, yeah.
Can I also just ask quickly, did your mother ever mention back engineering?
She never mentioned it.
Okay.
I did read, The Day After Roswell and some other books when I was first looking into this phenomenon seriously on my own, and I certainly remembered my mom when I was reading that particular book. So,
Earl, I got a question for you on abductions. Now, I've been studying the physical effects of people who have been abducted, and we know that the government now, we've talked about this at our meetings, we know that the government is now studying the physical effects of people who've been abducted, have encounters, and there's actually been people who've had physical injuries as far as neurological injuries, symptoms of all different types of things. What is your take on it?
There may be some side effects from contact as well. I don't know. That is an issue, and that is a question.
Could it be their type of communication, telepathy?
I don't know if that would be doing it, because I think that my guess is, we have the equipment for that. The hypothalamus of the brain, it has these two little, it looks like antennae, and you see it represented in the Eye of Horus. If you look at Egyptology and look at some of the figures that they drew of their, gods and entities. But the third eye is based on the hypothalamus, and that's supposed to be the pituitary and the hypothalamus area is the seat of consciousness. It's the seat of personality, and they also believe that it's the seat of telepathy. The people that are looking into this, from what I've heard, that there have been government studies on the subject that certain people have signed NDAs on, so they can only give so much information out. But I've heard that there is a change in experiencers in the hypothalamus area, and it seems like their intuition, their telepathic abilities are amplified, and it may be an actual biological change that takes place.
That would make sense. Like that a lot of experiencers talk about, the lucid dreaming and the interacting with the dreams and all that has to do with
It's
that.
very, very, very common.
Very common. I also hear a lot of experiencers that suffer with autoimmune disorders and rashes and things. Have you heard that as well?
Yeah, that's a thing. I don't know. I keep on looking for markers in common in these cases. And I've noticed a lot of people with, immune diseases and stuff tend to be experiencers. Also, O negative, O positive blood, RH type blood. Those bloodlines seem to be of interest to our visitors. More oftentimes than not, I'll hear from an experiencer that they're one of those blood types.
You mentioned your mom, but do you believe anybody else in your family has had any contact or were experiencers?
Maybe. Nobody else ever really spoke about it, but I know that my mom had what she called a incident with ball lightning when she was 16 years old, when she was living in Iowa. And her description of what she went through is not ball lightning. Ball lightning only lasts a matter of seconds, if that. And this was a ball of sparks that retained its shape. It pushed its way through their screened-in patio. It was summertime in Iowa, Muscatine, Iowa. It gets very, very humid, so they would sleep on the porch. And this thing was hovering over her sister, and then it came over to where she was. Then it went, and it pushed its way back through the screened-in porch. My mom, and she ran after it. She said that she ran into the neighbor's cornfield, and this thing was as though it were waiting for her about 30 feet in the air. And she got right under it, and she was looking up at it, and it popped like a soap bubble, and it smelled like an electric train transformer, which is ozone. So it was an electrical phenomenon. But it was under intelligent control. It was waiting for her, and it hovered over her sister. It went to her like eye level, like looking at her.
Yeah.
And I think of it as a Foo Fighter. It sounds much like the Foo Fighters of the 1940s. It would have been the right time period for that too.
Sure does.
That's true. That time period.
Yeah.
So we know that you have a nursing background, and our co-producer Amanda actually was asking about side effects. Some people, like we said, can have really good experiences with contact, but a lot of people can suffer anxiety, depression, even mental illness, can be brought on by this life-changing event.
Yes.
And I just wonder how you as a nurse can bring even more to your role at MUFON.
If I see somebody that I think needs some psychological counseling or help in that way, I'll encourage it, and I'm never judgmental about it. I'll mention my own experience that it threw me, and I know people. I know even Kevin Day went through a real difficult period after he had his experience on the Princeton. back in 2004, where he was very confused, and he kind of he talks about it, so I think I can talk about it. He talks publicly about it, that now he's clean and sober, but he was kind of trying to tamp his emotions and his feelings down with alcohol. And so people go through this. People deal with it better than others sometimes. I've known some people where, there's one gentleman, this German guy who he had the same implant pulled out of his ankle 5 different times. It's almost like it was this running gag. You'd have it surgically removed, he'd come home, and they'd come back, and it would be reimplanted. And for him, it was very upsetting to him. He didn't want to have anything to do with his entities. He wished he hoped that sometime they'd get sloppy and forget to paralyze him so he could throttle him, and he was serious. And I've heard, Dan Sims, is that the guy's name? Sims, the UFO hunter guy, he's had people that said that they slept with rifles to try to keep them away, and that's not gonna. You might start an interstellar war or shoot your neighbor. So I would say no, but
we laugh. That's happened though, Earl. People have taken shotguns out and just shot at their neighbor's yards.
People have shot at UFOs before, and apparently they see radar as a weapon. That's what they shot at. The Princeton used deep radar, and when they hit the Tic Tac with the deep radar, that's when the Tic Tac got serious, and when they started getting played cat and mouse with. And I've talked with a couple of the scientists over at SCU, Rich Hoffman's group, where they wrote their big paper, on the Tic Tac, and they a lot of them feel like when we use deep radar on these craft, that it's seen as a hostile act. So, and we don't want to be seen as hostile. Anyway.
Oh, you're on mute, Katie. You're on mute
there, Katie.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I keep doing that because I sneezed a minute ago, and
that's okay.
Myself. Talking about Kathleen Martin, again, she's going to be our guest next week, and she told me this terrible case of this witness that had literally chained himself to the bed. You guys probably know about that one. I mean, he was so terrified of being taken repeatedly that he literally chained himself to the bed at night. And that absolutely breaks my heart. And that's why the ERT is so important. If somebody's really suffering like that, to just help get them, in contact with somebody that can help them, because that's no way to live. That's absolutely miserable.
You have to be really open-minded and non-judgmental. The ERT, it takes a special person. I think that if you have a background in healthcare,
I think Earl froze a minute.
He did.
Yep, he froze.
Well, they didn't want him to answer that question.
Say, between me being muted. Oh, okay. So he's going to try and get back in. But yeah, you guys can speak to this with the ERT, that it does take a special person, because you could literally have somebody coming to you going, I don't even know why I want to live if this is going to happen to me. And that's a lot to handle.
Well, Earl was absolutely right. We get these news stories, but we do get reports of people, thinking, they're going to be abducted and stuff, and they're running around with shotguns and everything else, or they think their neighbor is an alien. I mean, we joke about it sometimes, but the fact of the matter is, one of the reasons I think that they don't want disclosure, and I'll ask Earl this if he comes back, is that they're scared what people might do if the government comes out, somebody legitimate, and says, "Hey, aliens are real and they're living among us and they look just like us." How many people do you say, "Oh my God, that guy is going to go out and go crazy on stuff"? And there will be. That's no question about it.
I think the majority of people would handle it okay, but Amanda's saying maybe weather in his area. Hopefully he can, or someone trying to stop him talking. We hope not. Hopefully he'll be back in a sec. But yeah, I think the majority of us would handle it okay. I mean, we've already had a little bit of disclosure. I mean, like we talk about all the time on the show. I mean, our government has pretty much come out and said, okay, there's some stuff there and we don't totally know what it is. And people haven't gone completely nuts, maybe because we were distracted, the last couple of years. I won't say why, but I do think most people would handle it okay. But you're going to have those few nut jobs that are going to go out and buy every gun they can get their hand on and be pointing it out the window. And that is unfortunate.
Absolutely. Look what happened with Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. Katie,
Yeah.
you remember that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a great responsibility. The ERT, because you are dealing with some people who are extremely fragile. So, I mean, you guys get a lot of training on how to deal with that, right? And I think MUFON does have a list of professionals. Of course, MUFON doesn't pay for that, correct? But they can certainly give resources to these folks that need it.
Most of the people that called, most of the people I've encountered, they're just looking for somebody to say, please don't judge me. Here's what's happened. And then the secondary, most of all, they just want to be heard because they're afraid to go to their doctor and say, I've been abducted by aliens. They're afraid to go to their family, saying, Mom, Dad, there's these little green men, coming around my room at night and stuff of that nature. And they don't have anybody to talk to. And the ERT is a perfect team because a lot of the people on the ERT are abductees. They've gone to that task because, they've said, I know exactly what you're going through because I've been there. And that's a very important thing. So they have that interface that way.
Yeah, that is, like you said, people just really need to be heard. And I think the best thing we can do is tell our stories and keep getting it out there and, destigmatizing the whole field. It's also important, obviously, that people come forward when they're ready to tell what they're comfortable with, because it is a really big deal to come out and say that you've had any kind of contact, like you said. And how many people have you heard from on the ERT, like people that come to you and literally say, I can't even tell my spouse that this happened to me.
Correct.
And I mean, can you imagine what it's like to go through life like keeping that big of a secret? I mean, I think we were just talking last week about how weird it is. Just get up and go to work, like, take your kids to school, and no big deal. Like, something was in my room last night and drew blood, and I think I went somewhere again. I mean, it is really hard to just keep going. So, like you said, as long as somebody can listen and not judge and be really open-minded, I just think the ERT are saints for being able to do that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of these contacts and abductions happen at very fragile, like prepubescent times when you are just beginning your, going into your teen years. You hear that often. And so you're kind of confused anyway, and you're going through all these emotions, like high, how everything matters to you when you're that age, and boys and girls and all of that confusion. And then you enter that. And it's so confusing, and you shut down and you question everything. And oftentimes when you're at that age, you don't reach out at that point. It takes years to digest it because you feel isolated, you feel alone, you feel confused, you're questioning everything. And then eventually when you come around to like going, what the heck? And it seems to me, at least I've noticed, and Chris, maybe you can answer this, that this seems to happen, younger ages or teenage years. Then later on, it's almost like they come back and check in with these abductees and contactees or put them on this other path to maybe do a mission or a job or whatever they're being downloaded with. Have you found that with the work you've done in ERT?
I have, and I will tell you this, that younger people have been abducted, and then they'll go years, and all of a sudden now having another abduction. But the abduction may be different. The first abduction may be a scientific abduction, maybe one where they're probing you or they're collecting samples or they're doing certain things. But then what I see is years later, the abduction is almost like a classroom or a download experience. The abduction becomes not of let's prod you and stuff like that, but we're downloading. Like Earl was talking about the police officer that had this download. I think people they're testing people out, and then they come back and they download certain information into them. They kind of say, okay, this is the person we want. We're going to download that certain information, and we're going to put that in. So there is possibly, and we still got to look into this, a pattern of abductions that happen to people. And that's important because they may be taking samples not only for a hybridization program and stuff, but also if we're capable of having this type of stuff done.
Yeah. No, that is so true. It's almost like they are prepping the abductees early on and then go back in and do whatever, their mission is. So that's really interesting. Glad to have you back, Earl. We thought maybe there's weather in the area, or we were hoping you'd get back in here.
I'm not saying it was aliens, but
it's aliens.
This little guy, I don't know. He's got red eyes and he looks a little malevolent today.
Hey, so the whole time you've been on, Earl, I've been eyeballing. Yeah, there you go. It's aliens. I've been eyeballing all your fun tchotchkes on your shelf back there. Love the clock. I love the hitchhiking ghost. But one of our listeners, and it's been back in the comments, so I'm not sure who it was, but asked about the UFO over your shoulder there. Can you talk about what that is?
This guy here?
Yeah, that guy right there.
He's kind of a proverbial.
My dog likes that.
Some giant rock and those encounters back in the days of contactees. That was the type of craft that they said that Valiant Thor came to Earth in. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about Valiant Thor, but I would really love to meet the guy. I'd love to be in contact with Valiant Thor if you're
that was a wild story. That also kind of looked like Billy Meyer.
I don't think the dog liked Valiant Thor.
You like Valiant Thor? Do you know
Apparently
Valiant
not.
Thor? Oh, he's totally into Valiant Thor.
For a snack, it sounds like maybe.
Yeah.
Doesn't that look
like he wants raw meat?
I've got one of the, hold on. I've got more stuff.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
No, is that Grateful Dead or Einstein? I can't tell.
That's Grateful Dead. That's Jerry Garcia. I've got my
Garcia.
Area 51 UFO up there. I got lots of Beatles stuff because I'm a Beatles guy. And I do have the hitchhiking ghosts, the grinning ghosts from Disneyland. My buddies. Oh, hey there. Albert. Dance around.
I love
Albert.
that stuff.
Be
you gotta love. We're all adults that love toys. I've got a whole shelf.
I know.
That's true.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Speaking of staying young at heart, we've got like 5 minutes left to the show. So just really quickly, we were talking while you kind of beamed away before you came back about how young people. We're just trying to figure out if there's this pattern, of contact that happens when you're young, and then maybe again in teenage years and 20s. Just as an investigator, if you've seen that too. Again, we've just got a few minutes left, but have you seen that pattern?
Yes, I have. It's I was obsessed with outer space when I was a little kid. I remember one of my earliest memories is on the swing set my dad built, like out of wood, the way that they used to do back in those days. It was not IKEA. He got like the lumber and built this thing. It had monkey bars, and I took some of the leftover lumber and I threw together a reasonable facsimile of a spaceship, I thought, and drew little control panels. Made my dad haul this thing up to the top of the monkey bars. I guess I must have been 3.5 or 4 years old, but they were had a little more liberty towards their kids back then, And so I climbed up to the monkey bars. I'm up there waving at the sky, singing, and my mom's like, goes to the window. It's like, who are you singing to? It's like the space people, Mom. I'm waving and singing to the space people. And here I am, I'm going to be, speaking of the Beatles, when I'm 64. Well, yeah, I'll be that next month, all these years later, it's like, 60 years later, here I am. I'm still waving and singing to the ETs. So
yeah, that happens to
I'm a Gemini. Yeah. Somebody mentioned, are you a Gemini? Apparently a double Gemini with Cancer rising, which supposedly mellows me, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I don't
There's
know.
so many songs with UFO ET references. I think there was a speaker that spoke about that, but I find that fascinating. It's like this
A lot of musicians,
artists, musicians.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix said that he had contact. Stevie Ray Vaughan apparently, and John Lennon, and I even asked May Pang, who was John Lennon's mistress at the time, during his little lost weekend. But he was in New York. They had a apartment together, and he's standing at the picture window, and he sees a UFO. It's flying between the buildings. And he called May out. He said, "Tell me what I'm looking at here." And she comes out and she's standing next to him. And the thing just flew right up to their window. It was hanging there, had lights spinning around the bottom like a carnival ride. And I've talked to May about it. She said that you could hit it with a rock. It was so close. And you hear that from people who have had a close encounter. I could have, if I had a baseball, a real close encounter, if I had a little rock, I could have hit it. And that was, what May said. And I don't know if, maybe, musicians and artists and thinkers and philosophers are being contacted on purpose. Maybe those are the folks that, have the heart of humanity, at least in mind. You have to have, some of that going on if you're going to communicate with people with music and song and or even if you're just improvising on guitar, you have to be able to make intellectual leaps and be able to read the other musician's mind in the moment.
Yeah.
And that all makes for a very good field investigator too, by the way.
That's right.
One of my best field investigators right now is a rockabilly guy, Gino
nice.
Mariginella, and he's a rockabilly guy. He's playing his gigs, and I know he just closed a really good unknown just recently.
Right.
So,
well, we only have just a few seconds left, Earl. You've been just a delight to have on. I hope everybody can get out there to the Denver Symposium and see Earl and hang out. I think we're going to have a blast sitting around the fire pits and chit-chatting and having a drink and laughing and all that. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Katie Cook. Thank you, Chris, Jerry, and Jenna, and Amanda, our co-producer, and Bill Skywatcher. Next week, we have Kathleen Martin, so I hope you all join us there. Earl Gray Anderson, I hope you write a book someday. I would love to see you. You have so many sightings in California, and we didn't even get to those. So I'm really hoping you'll come back here in a couple months, and we can get into your music. We didn't touch on that. We didn't touch on these cases. There's so many more things we wanted to talk to you about. So I hope you will come back and join us here in a while. Thank you to all our listeners, and we hope to see you next Tuesday night. Have a good rest of your week and an even better weekend. All right.
Thank you. Bless you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl.
Thank you,
awesome.
Earl.